Hey everyone, this is KyberQ, and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite movies that came out in 2019. It goes without saying that these are my personal top 10 favorite movies. There'll be some movies that you'll agree with and some that you'll disagree with, and that's okay. I just thought it would be cool to talk about some of the movies I loved, and maybe even get you guys interested in some movies that you may have missed from 2019. If there was a great movie you caught that I didn't mention, please call them out in the comments below so I can check them out. Well, without further ado, let's go! Late Night is a movie about racism, sexism, minority hires, and affirmative action, while also being a satire on the current state of late night TV and comedy, and even touches on social media backlash. On paper, that sounds messy. That is way too many issues to cover in a single film. But it somehow all works because the film always ties it back to the stories of the two lead characters, played by Mindy Kaling and Emma Thompson. Also, I don't mean to brag, but I watched this movie in the early afternoon. It's extremely nuanced and clever. It doesn't do the lazy thing of painting one whole group as the bad guy. On the contrary, a lot of the times it's Emma Thompson's character that has some of the most problematic and old-fashioned views in her workplace. It never gets too heavy-handed, it never gets too caught up or messy with all the social issues it's portraying, and overall, it's still a really fun movie. Mindy Kaling's writing is as sharp and witty as ever, and she plays that same spunky character she usually does. The chemistry between the two leads is excellent. It's built on this mutual admiration for one another, but with an underlying sense of envy. Every time that it seemed like the story was gonna do something cliche, it completely subverted my expectations, especially with a certain twist near the end. It's funny, it's relevant, and it's one of the movies that came out last year that completely took me by surprise. Now, there are people who would probably put this in their worst of lists, but screw it. Number 9 is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Yes, it does have its issues, and I do have problems with it, especially with how they deal with certain characters. But dang, is this movie fun! As someone who loved The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker was an absolute blast. It really was the most fun I've had in the cinema for a long time, and I just had the biggest smile on my face watching this. And when I didn't, it was because I was getting choked up. These characters will always be near and dear to me, and saying goodbye to them after one last grand adventure was bittersweet to say the least. Rey, Finn, and Poe are just so much fun working together. They really feel like a family, and at the end of the day, that's what this movie is all about. It's also a fitting farewell and tribute to the legacy characters, tying their arcs up nicely. You know how The Force Awakens was a great Chewbacca movie? Well, The Rise of Skywalker was a great C-3PO movie. 3PO was just laugh out loud hilarious and steals every scene he's in. And the new characters are great too. Babu Frick is amazing. I love Babu Frick. There are things I wouldn't have agreed with on paper, but the performances really sell it. Daisy Ridley as Rey was as fierce and determined as ever, and as usual, Adam Driver is an absolute beast as Kylo Ren. I'll probably cover this movie in a future video, so if you're interested in that, please comment down below. And it's fine if you don't like the movie, but personally, it delighted the Babu Frick-sized little kid inside of me from start to finish. Did I mention I love Babu Frick? Uncut Gems was such a stressful, anxiety-inducing movie, man. Everything just feels so natural and real. The dialogue is messy, the characters are constantly repeating things, yelling over each other, overlapping each other like in real life. It doesn't feel scripted or fake. The only other movies that handle dialogue like this that I've seen are Good Time, which was the Safdie brothers' previous movie that I loved, and Coherence. Howard is one of the most scummy, unreliable, and greedy lead characters you'll ever see in a movie. He has a gambling addiction, and he never ever quits while he's ahead, and it just makes this movie so tense to watch. Whenever it looks like things are finally resolving themselves and going his way, he always manages to screw himself over by gambling it away for a higher payday. He gets so many chances to get out of it. Honestly, if he just took his first bet, the movie would be like 10 minutes long. But yeah, he cheats on his wife, he's desperate, he's pathetic, but somehow, against all odds, Adam Sandler makes him a character to root for, and you soon find yourself gambling beside him. He is so great in this role. The stakes are constantly getting raised, and it just has you on the edge of your seat throughout. This movie really is wait for it, a freaking gem. I'm not sorry. I am not sorry at all. Screw you guys. Screw you guys. It's a freaking gem. The Farewell. Awkwafina plays Billy, a Chinese girl who grew up in the US, who learns that her grandma, who she calls Nai Nai, has lung cancer, but she doesn't know it because the rest of her family chooses to keep it a secret from her.
Your nan is dying. She doesn't know, so you can't say anything. The family thinks it's better not to tell her.
Why is that better?
Chinese people have saying, when people get cancer, they die.
And you just see the lengths that they go to keep this secret, from altering her test results, to organizing a fake wedding function just as an excuse for all of the family to visit her in China before she dies. At first you're like, man, that's not cool. But then there's a scene in the movie where it really makes you rethink. Even if you still disagree with it, you're like, oh, wow, I kinda understand why you're doing this now. This not only touches upon the idea of how different cultures deal with death and mourning, but also how different generations deal with it. It really plays with the stereotype that Asian families are emotionally closed off, because this family here is far from it. The cast is great and they really feel like a family. Awkwafina gives a subtle yet amazing and layered performance. The relationship between Billy and Nai is just so sweet, and this is just such a moving and heartwarming story. It deals with culture, traditionalism, family, and loss, while still being a poignant and funny movie. Ari Aster was the mind behind Hereditary, which was one of my absolute favorite horror movies of the past decade. And he also worked on this great little short film called The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. Oh my god, that always gets me. But seriously, you have to watch this. It's only 30 minutes long and you can watch it for free online. But yeah, Ari Aster has quickly become one of my favorite horror movie directors, and I was excited to see his next big project, Midsommar. Or is it Midsommar? Midsommar. This movie follows a group of young adults taking a spiritual retreat to a Swedish midsummer festival, when the cult's bizarre rituals start to spiral out of control into absolute insanity and drug-induced horror. It's remarkable how some of the most horrifying parts of this movie are in broad daylight, and it really is a testament to how confident this movie is about its ideas and imagery. It doesn't rely on cheap jump scares or horror tropes, and instead focuses on developing a disturbing atmosphere and confronting themes. Some of the imagery on display here really stays with you long after the credits roll. It's beautiful yet macabre, fascinating yet sickening. If you're a horror fan, this is definitely a movie you have to check out. Knives Out plays with the formula and structure of the murder mystery, and really displays a remarkable understanding of the genre. It pays tribute to it while doing its own thing. What surprised me was how it lays everything out in the open pretty early in the story, but still manages to be consistently enjoyable throughout. This has to be one of the best all-star casts put together in 2019. All these actors do such a great job playing these eccentric archetypes, but a special shout out has to go to Ana de Armas as Marta, and Daniel Craig plays a wonderfully over-the-top southern detective, Benoit Blanc, and he really looks like he's having the time of his life playing this character. The costume and set design is a joy to behold, and I even found myself admiring the sets instead of looking at the characters in some scenes. It's just a really fun and colorful movie to look at. It's a cheeky take on the often stale genre, and it never takes itself too seriously. Rian Johnson really is a master of his craft, and I'm excited to see what he has in store for his future projects. Marriage Story. Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are amazing in this. They are just so good together. Between these massive verbal outbursts and arguments, there are these fleeting moments of pure chemistry between them. You're really rooting for them to stick together, or at the very least, have a clean split. But boy, does it get messy. We have these sleazy but charismatic lawyers who want them to go against each other, just because that's their job, and weaponize the smallest, pettiest disagreements between them. When we start off, we don't really know what the catalyst of the divorce was, and we find out that it really wasn't that important. They don't linger on it too much, because even if it hadn't happened, something else was still going to come along and cause it. The explosive argument where all emotions come to a head is some of the absolute finest acting both actors have done in their entire careers. It's a well-crafted drama, but it's also really funny and charming sometimes, and it ends in a sweet way. Snowpiercer, Okja, The Host. Bong Joon-ho has directed some of my favorite movies. They've always had these strong elements of fantasy while still making an important social statement. Parasite is his most grounded movie yet, ditching the fantasy of his previous work. This is so beautifully filmed. The sets look fantastic, and he even manages to make the slums look gorgeous. The script is extremely tight, and every scene carries some significance. Not a single shot in this movie is unnecessary, and everything gets paid off at the end. It's a gripping movie where you're constantly changing sides, and in between moments of pure thrills, you're just laughing at the absurdity of it all. I'm not gonna say anything about the plot, cause really, the best way to watch this movie is to go in not knowing a single thing about it. Really, do yourself a favor, don't look up any plot details. You really need to watch this without knowing any of the twists and turns. You need to truly experience the spectacularly brutal way everything unravels. When the studio announces they're making a spin-off movie about a popular villain, history shows that it's going to be an absolute dumpster fire. Movies based on villains tend to play it safe and are just as formulaic and predictable as your standard superhero movie, when they should be anything but. They should be more chaotic, more vicious, they should take more risks. Because let's face it, villains are sometimes way more fascinating than the good guys. But somehow their own movies can never seem to reflect that. And that's when you go,
Send in the clowns.
this is the Joker, baby! I've always been a fan of Joaquin Phoenix, and he does an incredible lead performance. I won't be surprised if he gets nominated for an Oscar for this, only to lose to a lead actor in a mediocre biopic about a popular musician.
And the Oscar goes to...
Taron Egerton for the Elton John movie.
This has some of the most confronting depictions of gun violence you'll ever see in a movie. And for a movie that's set in the 80s, this really carries a lot of modern day political imagery. But this isn't a political movie either. It's a psychological thriller. It's a character study. You get to see this troubled individual spiral into absolute insanity until you're on the edge of your seat, bracing yourself for every horrific act he's gonna commit next. Every shot looks phenomenal and is dripping with character and personality. In a world where so many superhero movies seem to play it safe and feel incredibly manufactured, Warner Brothers and DC really took a risk with Joker, and it paid off. Man, I was so depressed and disturbed by this movie that once I got back from seeing it, I had to watch Smurfs The Lost Village just to cleanse my mind. This movie is haunting. It still got me thinking of it weeks and weeks after watching it, but it didn't leave as much impact as my number one. When most blockbuster franchises can't even get a trilogy of consistently good movies out, Toy Story thumbs its plastic nose at them and says, I'll do you one better. How about not only 3 good movies, but 4 absolute masterpieces? Like a lot of people, I was extremely skeptical about a 4th Toy Story movie coming out and potentially ruining a perfect trilogy after the closure of Toy Story 3. And then I watched it and I was like, Pixar, why did we ever doubt you? You thought you had closure at the end of Toy Story 3. Yeah, everything will be alright as long as you have your family and friends by your side, right? I mean, we still had that underlying sense that this cruel cycle will continue when Bonnie grows up. And the toys might not be lucky enough to stick together this time. And Toy Story 4 plays with that idea. Like all great sequels, it still feels like a natural progression for a franchise that truly deals with themes of existentialism and relationships. What if you've fulfilled and outlived your purpose in life? What if you're given the choice to move on, even if it means leaving your family behind? Man, this movie really made me think. It's so great to see Woody's arc, from him trying to get rid of a flashy new toy that becomes his owner's new favorite, to risking life and limb trying to save a literal piece of trash that wants to throw itself away. Now that's character development. Toy Story 4 really acts like a deconstruction of Woody's whole character that was built up in the other 3 movies. This one feels like the smallest, most personal Toy Story movie yet. In many ways, it feels like a Woody solo movie. Even characters that I thought I would despise, Forky, Bunny, and Ducky, were actually really endearing additions to the cast. And Gabby Gabby, played by Christina Hendricks, is such a great new character. She's so adorable and she'll bring you close to tears by the end. We also have Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom, and he is hilarious. This is probably one of the funniest movies to come out in 2019. And it goes without saying that the voice work is phenomenal. This is probably the most well-rounded cast in animated film history. And sure, they had to reuse the late Don Rickles audio from old talk shows, but Mr. Potato Head was great too. Wait, now that I think about it, it was pretty strange how he was calling everyone Johnny Carson. The storytellers and animators at Pixar are at the top of their game here. The animation and art direction on display here is just amazing. The environments look beautiful, even though we really spend most of the movie in 2 locations. But you can tell the people who worked on this movie really poured their hearts into this. There was only one way that the ending of this movie could top the emotional roller coaster that was the end of Toy Story 3. And man, they went for it. They did it. It was quite a challenge deciding what order I'd put these movies in. But one thing that helped me was thinking of it this way. If you sat me down and showed these movies to me, which ones would I rather watch over the others? And over all these other movies I covered, it would have to be Toy Story 4. Yo, I might even watch it again right now.
This Disney DVD is enhanced with Disney's...
Anyway, those were my top 10 movies of 2019 that I highly recommend checking out if you haven't. As I mentioned at the start, please let me know what your favorite movie of 2019 was and why. It could be a movie that I talked about, or maybe it's a movie that I didn't mention and that you'd like me to check out. As always, I want to thank you for watching this video, and if you like what you see, please subscribe to see more of me, KyberQ. Bye!